my name's Dan, and this video is the first video in a short series that I'm doing about blueprints in Unreal. In fact, this short series is really an introduction to blueprints and what they are, and so this video is an introduction to the introduction. I'm going to try and attempt to describe, in I hope some kind of coherence, what a blueprint is. There are some misconceptions floating around in the world of Unreal about blueprints and blueprints, because there is a visual scripting system, which I will do a series on that as well. And that is widely called blueprint scripting, but a lot of people refer to that as blueprint and think that the scripting itself is the thing that's called blueprint. And technically it's not, okay, because blueprints are more than the scripting. Okay, let's just do a quick look at what we've got here. So I've just created a very basic third-person template map project, and I've included the starter content in there. And if you look down in the content panel down here, hopefully by now you've been in some of these projects and you've had a look around as to what's in the content. You find that there's the starter content here. We'll have a look in there in a minute, and I'm going to have a quick look in third person. So this is stuff that's specific to this template, and it's got a folder here called blueprints, and there's a third person character. When I mouse over it, it says that it's in brackets a blueprint class. And in fact, the word class is important here as well. Here's another one. It's a third-person game mode, which is also a blueprint class. And if we go back out and into the starter content, you'll see there's a folder here called blueprints, and there are several more blueprint classes. And I could open one up. There is an editor for these things. Zoom out to have a look. So here we can see there is some of this visual scripting going on. There's also, if you click on the viewport tab, there's some visual elements to this thing. So I've been pussyfooting around the question as to what a blueprint is. Let's try and actually answer that. So this is a blueprint being edited, and what it is it's a way of combining things together, I guess. That's fundamentally quite important. So here we've actually got something that's made up of a static mesh, which is a lamp ceiling, and a point light. And inside the blueprint, these are bound into one entity. And the blueprint class describes this entity. It's also got, in this particular occasion, behavior. So this was in the construction script. I'm not going to describe how the scripts work, but this describes some behavior and something that actually, where this can be active or changes can happen inside this thing that's the blueprint class. And so there are two really fundamental ideas about blueprints, as well as the binding together of stuff. So one of them is the word class here. So if you've done some object-oriented programming, you will probably understand this idea of creating a class that you can create instances from. And I will talk about that more in a later video in this series. But the idea of a blueprint is, the word blueprint is used in architecture as it's the drawing of a building, and in Unreal it's not the actual object that you put into the world. It's a description of an object, but you can create more than one object from that description. It's a bit like having a recipe for a cake. You can use the recipe over and over again to make more cakes. The recipe isn't the cake, and the cake isn't the recipe. And so the blueprint isn't the object in the scene, but it describes the object in the scene. And because of the wonders of technology, if you make changes to the blueprint, it gets changed in every instance of that blueprint that's in the scene. As I say, I'll go into that in more detail later. The other thing that is important about blueprints is that that when you can create your own blueprints. It's all about creating your own blueprints and using blueprints that other people have made. But every blueprint in Unreal is part of what's called an inheritance hierarchy, which means that somewhere in Unreal there is a description of a very basic blueprint object, and every blueprint class you make inherits some of its properties and some of its code from higher up the hierarchy. And if there's a blueprint class created, you can derive from that and expand on the ideas. So it's about having basic ideas and then having them expanded on. And this is really useful because it means you don't have to start from scratch in doing things that will work within Unreal, because Unreal have done that for you, and then you can use that code that's going on behind the scenes in C++ and use it to create your own blueprint classes. So that there's some really quite deep concepts there going on. The concept of inheritance and having an inheritance hierarchy, the concept of classes where you get instances, but as well as that, the fundamental idea is that a blueprint is something that's more complex than just one thing. You can tie things together and bind them together. And it's all based on object-oriented programming. You might not have had any object-oriented programming that you've done in the past, so don't worry about that if you haven't. I'm not relying on that. So that's kind of blueprints in a nutshell. And in the rest of the series, we're going to be exploring that. We're going to be creating some blueprints. We're going to be showing the use of these blueprints. But yeah, as I say, it's all about adding complexity and adding functionality to your program, to your game. So check out the rest of the series. That's it from me for now.